since the inception of the 2013. Remember, this was one of the initiatives which was initiated by the United Nations World Tourism Organization, and it was introduced in 2010. I hear that most activities began in 2019. Although the department tried to deal with it in 2013. So we want to know, why is it only initiated now? And I mean, women could have been far by now if really our honorable ladies who were presenting today had to start then when this was introduced. I mean, they could have taken this country very far if this was moved on at the time it was proposed by the UN. And also, what opportunities are available in participating in tourism value chain? So I think, remember, we have tourism. I like the, some of the presentations here that are actually adding tourism and arts and culture together, because most of them, they really work together. And I want to find out about other issues that can be in the value chain of tourism, which women can find opportunities in them. And then also, what are the criteria? What was the criteria? But this one, it comes to the provincial leaders who just presented here. What was the criteria used to appoint the charter persons for women in tourism? I mean, your representation, which is so wonderful. How were you appointed to those positions which you are holding? Possibly, maybe you didn't tell us on how you became who you are today. Chair, I also want to find out about the, I see Mema Lunka Skosana is a DD, which is a deputy director, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe if I'm misplacing you, please excuse me for that. But I think it will be very much important, Chair, to see a person in the position of a chief director in the for women in tourism in the Department of Tourism, in the government side, because that position will actually mean that the woman will be in a position to assist women on the ground, and for women's issues to be prioritized. Because if we don't have a chief director in the Department of Tourism, we'll find that issues that are supposed to be prioritized for women are set aside, because it's only a person who is sitting in a position that has no power to make a decision. And therefore, Chair, I find that we really need to find women in the position of authority within the Department of Tourism, in order for them to represent women in the decision-making position within the department itself. And I thank you very much, Chair. There, I'm done. Thank you. Should I continue? I have more, Chair.
I was just unmuting here. Thank you very much, Honorable Gomba. We are now going to have Honorable Sitole. Okay, he has given us his apology. Honorable Gumbi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. If you'll please just excuse me, I won't turn my video on. I'm just in a very badly connected area, so it keeps cutting. But hopefully I'll be able to get my questions in. And you'll also please just forgive me if anything has been asked. But thanks to the presenters for presenting and for the work in which they are doing. And what I really wanted to get to is the crux of three key things. So I mean, the first thing I think that you'll anticipate is that people are obviously interested in how many, for instance, companies perhaps owned by women have been lost, for instance, during the pandemic. So how many have been lost, how many received relief funding, and how many didn't receive some kind of relief funding. And the real reason why perhaps maybe I just relay those questions again is because we've taken obviously a position about how we think that we should get the economy going again, we should get tourism going, and how we should relax regulations as much as possible to try to save as many jobs as we can. But I want to hear from yourselves as an organization is, what do you think should be done with the current regulations to make it easier to give more opportunities, in particular for women in tourism, in terms of the current regulations? So that's really my leading question, is what should be done in terms of the current regulations, and then as well what should be done post the DMA. So when we're over the Disaster Management Act, what should we do in terms of regulations to ensure that more people have opportunities, more women have opportunities in the tourism space in particular? And that comes from a part in terms of government in Parliament and the regulations that we create, and as well as ourselves in the Portfolio Committee. So thanks very much, and sorry if in case you have answered some of those pointed questions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gumbi. Ndatemuteka.
Thank you, Chairperson. And let me appreciate the presentation from the chapters. And Chairperson, I will start with paying the condolences to the family of my friend Peter. His untimely death have affected us. May the family be strong, and the family of Portfolio of Tourism also be strong. Chairperson, my first questions will department to the minister, because when you're looking at the stats, Chairperson, it means more women are working in the tourist industry, but less of them are on top structure, and less of them are having ownership status in the industry. And this is not a new thing. It's long time, it has been like that for a long time. And again, Chairperson, when you look at when did the United Nations start this program of women in tourism? It was in 2010. And then in South Africa, the real activism started in 2019. The 2018 thing didn't work. It only started in 2019. So one asked himself, where was the ministry? Where was the department all along, all 9 years? That this is the sign showing that the Department of Tourism in South Africa doesn't take women serious. Because as far as we are informed, the women ownership in the tourism industry is only 10%, if the stats haven't changed yet. Only 10%. The black women ownership, by the way. But you find the government that doesn't do anything, even after United Nations have initiated something that can help the women in empowerment. So my question, Chairperson, goes to the department. What have you done in those 9 years between 2010 and up to 2019? Again, out of the conference, Women in Tourism Conference of 2019, there were 9 challenges that were raised. There were 9 challenges and 12 recommendations. I want to challenge the department for that in the next meeting, they bring us list of these challenges against the recommendations, which one was implemented up to now, from 2019 up to now, so that we can have a list where we tick, Chairperson, that conference of women in tourism is going like this, is moving or is staying one place. If we don't have anywhere where we have a checklist, we'll get nowhere. It will be the very same like they wasted 9 years of 2010 to 2019. So from now, from the next meeting, let's have a list of those recommendations and what have the department done on them. Because we can't just go to the conference, come back, and then business just go as usual. It can't happen. We'll never have a progress. We'll have a crying nation that talks of women empowerment, but nothing's happening. So let's do that. Let's go through the checklist, and then from time to time, the minister will have to tell us how far is she with those recommendations and the challenges of women in tourism. And then my questions to the women in tourism, more especially in the provinces, Chairperson, is how are they doing their recruitment in their regions and in the sub-regions, more especially in the remote rural areas and the villages? Because, Chairperson, when I look at the events they are conducting, they are more in the hotels and all that. In the villages, there are no hotels. So how are they reaching the women in the villages? And if such happened, I missed it maybe during the events, when they present the events. But let us hear from them. How are they reaching the women in the villages and in the townships? And again, how much is the fee? Because I had another one from the Free State talking about others, they don't have money, others and all that. Because in this, if we are serious about the women empowerment, you can't use money to block those who don't have money. We know almost, more especially in the villages, almost 90% or more of women are not working. So if there's going to be a joining fee of some sort that will block others from coming in, obviously it will be women empowerment, only women who are already financially advanced. So if there is a fee, because any organization needs some money to run its business, so the government must intervene. So what are other requirements, except the money thing I heard about? What are the other requirements? So that we want to see the women in the villages joining this progressive organization. Because we don't want to remain the crying nation, crying for women empowerment, that is not doing anything about it. And again, to our ladies there, what do you do? What do you do to bring in the new faces into the organization and into the tourism industry? Do you conduct some talk shows in the schools so that the children at secondary school, from primary maybe, they can understand this sector of tourism? Because in the villages, I can tell you, those who are doing tourism, travel and tourism, they are a laughing stock. They laugh at them. You just do it to pass. There's no career, there's no that, because there's no information out there. Please come down to the villages, talk to the kids, have some sessions, and so that our kids can have a clue on careers involved in the tourism industry. Chairperson, let me thank you very much. I think.
All right, thanks, Honorable Mateka. Honorable Kalipa. Dr. Khalid.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity. And thank you very much for the department presentation and all the stakeholders that they have made a presentation. What is exciting, Chair, is what presenters they have been presenting around your villages and your township. I think what will be more important, Chairperson, is for the department to give support to all these women in all provinces who are trying their level best, Chair, to be part of this difficult industry of tourism. We need to have a specific department, whether the Director General and the Minister, to give support to all the stakeholders, Chairperson, who have been doing a wonderful work around issues of tourism. In the Free State, the presentation from the Free State, I hear the presenter, she was indicating, Chairperson, that there are problems in one region, which is Lejweleputswa region, which is my constituency, Chairperson office, is in that region, and in Falcom. And I hope that the department and people who are working around that area, we can be consulted, Chairperson, to try to assist as we will be performing our constituency work around that area. But by and large, Chairperson, I'm very excited in the manner which is our people are trying to be part of this important industry of tourism. What I will propose, Chairperson, that on a monthly basis, it's important that we must be able to get some progress report. And there must also be resources, Chairperson, that our provinces are giving to the stakeholders, financial support. The department must also speak to private sector, to lobby private sector that these women must be supported, Chairperson. My interest, which is always the interest of the portfolio committee, is around your villages, your township, Chairperson. Those are your small towns. Those are areas, Chairperson, where I will request that the department, including these stakeholders, they must really be given support around those areas. Not only just financial support, Chairperson, which if we want them to succeed. Because if they don't get financial support, they are also not getting training in terms of capacity. It's also important that they must also get that training, Chairperson, from the department to build that capacity. And if indeed these women, they can get that support, I have no doubt, Chairperson, that in the next, when next year, 2021, August, they come back to the portfolio committee, they will give us a positive report, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, Honorable De Freitas, thanks, Mtate Khalipa. Honorable De Freitas can't speak. He is experiencing some challenges related to his health and vocal cords. Honorable Krambo.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to ask a quick question first before I get into the two main topics. And that is the Gauteng chapter apparently did not present today because there are some internal issues. It's not entirely clear to me to what extent the Department of Tourism funds these chapters. It does say that they collect membership fees in the presentation, and that is driven by the private sector. I'm not sure whether there is departmental support. If there is, then can we know a little bit more? Because if taxpayers' money is being used to support these particular chapters, then I think we need a little bit more transparency than simply a bland statement like, well, we're having some internal issues there. So can I get clarity on that? And if there is money being used, can we know what these issues are? Then the two main points. I was interested in the United Nations slide, World Tourism Organization chapter of the United Nations, where they put as number 1 and number 2 as the objectives: 1, employment of women, and 2, entrepreneurship. And that's precisely what I think ought to be the case, because ultimately I think everybody needs to realize that government doesn't create jobs. Jobs are created in the private sector, but what government can and should do is create an enabling environment for business to flourish. So in the presentation of the various chapters, we did see a lot of good work being done in terms of facilitation, field trips, alignment of various aspects of the job, and conferences, things like that. There was less on actual facilitation of building entrepreneurship and creating women who could go out there and be empowered to compete equally in the tourism sector. I mean, I welcome the one particular point about Sanlam doing some training, because that's, I think, what needs to happen. So part of the United Nations slide talked about the wage gap being lower men versus women than is generally the case. And there are encouraging signs about what could be achieved in tourism, mainly because of the low barriers of entry. So after being an MP for 21 years, I've stayed on a lot of B&Bs over the years in my travels. And it is true that many of the tour guides and many of the B&Bs are owned by women, and that's the exciting potential for the future. In the course of chatting to many of these people, because my work staying in those B&Bs is exactly what we have to do in tourism anyway, it's part of our portfolio. It is a little bit depressing that in many cases, it's a widower whose husband has passed away, obviously, and children have moved out. It's got all these spare rooms, and she turns it into a B&B. Now that's great, and I'm happy for those women who've turned their life in a direction where they can become entrepreneurs in their own right, create employment. But it shouldn't have to wait for that stage of the lifestyle or that stage of life to get into that situation. I think we'd like to see women basically leaving school or leaving a tertiary education situation and going into tourism straight away. So my question to the department, as much it is to the 9 chapter leaders that we've had on the presentation today, is this: do we actually know what the potential is? In other words, have we quantified how many women do we believe ought to be in tourism in this country? Because this essentially should be a quantitative perspective as well. Compared to that, and I would imagine that they would like to aim for at least a 50% ownership, and the figure of 10% ownership has been mentioned today, which doesn't really talk about equality at all. But if we're looking at something like 50% of the ownership in this country ought to be by women, then what should the ownership of women be in a fully functional tourism sector in South Africa? Compared to that, how many women do we actually have in those ownership positions? That'll give us an idea what the gap is and what the potential is that we need to actually realize. Then, if that in fact is the situation, what are we doing to facilitate entrepreneurial training so that people get in as soon as they can in their life to become a player in the tourism sector, one form or another? And does our training that the department envisages, along with the training to get in the private sector, enable us within a reasonable amount of time to reach those objectives? I didn't see anything in the presentation which asked those kind of questions. So this for me is about the numbers. What is needed? What's the potential? What do we actually have? What are we doing in terms of entrepreneurial training and empowerment to boost those numbers, both in employment and indeed ownership? So that's my question to whoever is best placed to answer it. But I think it's an overall perspective which should be held by the Department of Tourism, and where each one of our 9 provincial chapters contribute towards their share of bridging that gap. So can I get some feeling about the numbers there? Then my last question, Chairperson, the Howick Falls has been mentioned twice today again. And I imagine what's been talked about was the Good, Green, Clean awareness campaign that took place in early December last year, jointly under the Department of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, which was essentially a symbolic thing, and it had more to do with the pollution of the river, which ends up in the Blue Lagoon in Durban, and the waste management and landfill sites in Howick. So there was a kind of symbolic cleanup afterwards. And of course, cleanup's been happening for 20 years in Howick, mainly by the Friends of the Falls, the DA, and more recently Love Howick. So that's not a new thing. But obviously we welcome any help we can get to keep the clean program going, mainly because local government has collapsed in that part of the world, and there is no proper cleaning program. In fact, there's nothing going on, and things have got a lot worse since the committee visited there last year. What the presenters don't necessarily know is that on Sunday, the facility burned down, which again just illustrates how ineffective our interaction has been, because now the main asset there, which is the tourist kiosk, has been gutted and burnt to the ground. So not only do we not have a report from the municipality, which was due in January, not only do we not have any responses from the committee leadership, although we've been writing to the committee leadership since February, we now have to wait till September for the department to report on behalf of the municipality, because the municipality is too useless to send the reports which they were mandated to do by this portfolio committee. And in fact, the situation has deteriorated. None of the people living in desperate circumstances on the other side of the falls, which we quite correctly said ought to be housed in dignity, have in fact been housed. And in fact, there has now been a large group of people who've moved onto the site and are living there again in circumstances which provide no dignity at all, and which actually worsen some of the challenges that we have to address. So I welcome the fact that these particular ladies have helped through that initiative. And I would welcome more help, but we are getting nowhere on this site. And therefore my plea to you is, if you can perhaps use your considerable resources and influence to try and get the municipality to respond to the committee's request for reports, to try and get this project moving, because right now this is an embarrassment to intergovernment relations and to our own efforts. We went there in good faith as a multi-party committee. We all tried to forge a solution, but the municipality is dragging its heels. And business has further declined since then. The site has got dirtier. The infrastructure has been destroyed by the fire on Sunday, and nobody who deserves proper, decent accommodation from across the falls has been moved. So if you are going to go to Howick and get involved in these cleanups or have some kind of a say, I welcome that you're part of the solution. But please, can you also bring some pressure to bear to the municipality to try fulfill the expectations and the requests from the committee that we tabled in September last year, and that would be appreciated. So I'm taking the opportunity because it was raised on this particular platform, and I need you to be aware of the fact that while your efforts have been appreciated, the situation has in fact worsened. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Krambok. Honorable April. Miner April. If it's not there, Honorable Kleko, TS.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I take it that Honorable April is experiencing connection problems. Let me take the opportunity then. Chairperson, let me first start by greeting everyone in this platform and also saying Happy Women's Month to all of you and to all other women out there. Happy Women's Month. Chair, let me start by appreciating the presentations by all Mbogodos out there. I'm just saying this is a good start. And just say, when you strike a woman, you strike a rock. As a woman in this portfolio committee chair, let me appreciate the fact that the committee has prioritized this program in this August month, the month that was declared as a Women's Month. We appreciate that very much. To the department that is coordinating, I can say this is a good program to organize women such that those women are able to organize themselves and look for opportunities in business and network even for other women out there. As members of the committee, we are not only interested in provinces where we reside, we are interested in all 9 provinces. That's why I would recommend to the DDG coordinating and also the national organizing body to say they must come close to Gauteng because I did not get their presentation, and to all other provinces that have got a shortfall. Otherwise, we appreciate the presentations. And I think the national body must continue coordinating these programs. We need most women to take center stage in the economic activities of this country and beyond, Chair. There are hindrances, Chair, that I have identified earlier on that stop women from being active in business. Some that I can mention are lack of information, lack of resources, stereotypes, and the burden of work and responsibility of a woman at home and in the society. Those are the ones that I can just think of just now. I think these women can assist other women in overcoming these. It is bad, though we encourage people to work, but it is bad to get it that women form the bigger portion of those that are working, but a lesser or no portion to those that are in business. We want women to be there, to be active in the economic activities of the country. We are not going to ask them questions there, Chair. We will advise. There's only one question that I have for them. Just to ask the national coordinating body a question that says, in which other platforms do they participate? Because we want them to be judged and criticized. I am thinking of platforms like Women in Transport, Women in Agriculture, Women in Mining, so that they are able, as women in tourism, to participate in other women formation platforms, so that they can also tap opportunities and information that is there for these women that are participating in tourism. Also, Chair, I would advise all the provincial chapters to establish these district chapters. I was listening when the one from Eastern Cape was mentioning the districts. There was no mention of the districts like Chris Hani and Amator. I would advise all provincial chapters to work closely with district. I'm very glad that she did mention OR Tambo, which is a national pilot. My other advice to them, Chair, is that we are now using this new normal because of the pandemic. I would encourage them to use social media platforms which are accessible to even the rural women out there. It's easier to access information there, Chair. They must use those social media platforms to make other women understand that there are these women organizations. My other advice would be that they must make it simple and affordable for other women to join. I applaud the chapter of Northwest that have disclosed the joining fee of 500 Rand a year. Because what makes other women not to join is sometimes they do not know how to join, how much is it to join the organization. So I would just advise, and also the fact that there's one province that said they have just took it upon themselves to say women must just join free during this August month. I think that is a best practice, Chair. This new normal thing, Chair, has been as a result of the COVID-19, and it has showed us the fact that it's easier to reach people using social media and other platforms, because you can talk to people in Gauteng whilst you are in Dutwa in the Eastern Cape. My other advice to them, Chair, is that they, in their programs as provincial chapters, they must include topics such as gender-based violence topics. There is a lot affecting women out there, Chair. They can also extend invitations to Chapter 9 institutions, Gender Commission, Human Rights Commission, and other relevant organizations. That's my suggestion to them, Chairperson. My other suggestion would be the involvement of the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies for women to get used to the system and take opportunity of the fourth industrial revolution with digital skills. It's good to observe that women have been active right through the year, and they are now showcasing their successes in August. All provincial chapters must continue mobilizing other women so that those women are able to get information that they get from other business arrangements, in those workshops, in those arrangements that they have, Chairperson. In a nutshell, Chair, we appreciate the work done by women and also the strides by the Department of Tourism to have a DDG that is coordinating this program. I thank you very much, Chairperson.
Oh, thank you very much, Honorable TS. We will now give the department and the chairpersons and representatives of the 9 chapters to make their own reflections.
Thank you, Chairperson and honorable members. Thank you very much for your observations and your remarks. Thank you for the feedback and also expressing your most valuable expectations in terms of how the Women in Tourism program can be propelled and developed to be effective and also to contribute further to the gains that we have achieved so far. Chairperson, in terms of the structure within the department, I just want to remark that the Department of Tourism was proclaimed in 2010. We were part of the Department of Environmental Affairs and Tourism. It was only in 2010 that we became a standalone department. And that gave us an opportunity then to focus on tourism issues without any other issues that we were initially as a conjoined department were focusing on. And I want to submit that what we are hearing today, what we are observing today, is the results of the background work that has been that the department has been involved in. The fact that we can have such a brilliant and effective institutional arrangements for the program in terms of the women having their own chapters is really remarkable and can demonstrate the work that the department has been doing, for which we are seeing results today. Our participation globally, putting upfront the agenda of women in South Africa at the UNWTO, is the result of the work that we've been busy with. And to the extent that we are sampled by the UNWTO for a project in Limpopo, where they will be focusing in terms of what our experience have been, the evaluation and the monitoring of this project having to go to the UNWTO and to be applied across globally is indeed remarkable. We have demonstrated the ability to work together with provincial governments in terms of putting the agenda of women in tourism upfront and making sure that it receives the necessary support. Our entity is on board in terms of making sure that we facilitate exposure and networking for the women in tourism. Facilitation in terms of making sure that the sustainability for the different provincial chapters in terms of assisting them in terms of registration as NPOs, so that they can run their affairs, have a voice, and become sustainable in terms of recruiting members within their chapter. We are also ensuring a chairperson, and that takes time, demonstrate the work that we have been doing in terms of making sure that the women are sustainable. Yes, we understand about Gauteng, and as Maylene has alluded, it was one of the first chapters to come in on board. We will take the matters to Gauteng, and we are working in terms of making sure that they also get back on track. In the department, the chief director responsible for the program is also responsible for enterprise development. I think the linkages there sits in very well. She's also responsible for domestic tourism and also responsible for transformation. So across board, issues around women in tourism do receive sufficient focus, and as a chief director, they do receive enough support in terms of making sure that decisions are taken and promptly, and also that there's linkages in terms of what the department can be able to afford. I also want to allude to the fact, Chairperson, that we are doing well in terms of facilitating sponsorships for women to benefit. We have done a lot in terms of making sure that they deal with compliance issues. For you to be participating in your CEDAs, to be participating in other agencies, they have got their requirements, and we have been very active in terms of making sure that all the compliance issues like registration, support in terms of enterprise development is provided to women. So in a nutshell, Chairperson, we can show results to this far, and with your inputs, I think the work can continue very, very smoothly. I'm going to allow Maylene and Lumka to also address the questions that honorable members have raised. Thank you.
Can I proceed, Honorable Chair?
Yeah, proceed. Come on, my bro.
Thank you. Thank you, in terms of the partnerships, we already have partnerships with SEDA, CIFA, NEF, and the IDC, and some of the women, in fact, even on the Zoom meeting now, have been approved for TTF. So we work very closely with those organizations to build those relationships. The opportunities for women in tourism value chain, we are in the process of, through the research unit, trying to get that value chain unpacked, and specifically to look to, if I can just jump over to Honorable Crumbrook's question about the substantive issues around women participation. So we have to unpack the value chain. There is the NTCE also, in terms of Honorable Mateka, you know, the question around our young people being ridiculed in schools for taking tourism, and that's what the NTCE is there to do. The incubation programs as well are there, and we hope through the Women's Enterprise Development Program, partnerships with the commercial banks will enable us to do that. In terms of the program, I think Lumka will speak to that. I only joined the department in 2018-19 and was given this program to take to the level where it is now, and it would not have been possible without Lumka's. It sits now in the Enterprise Development Directorate. In terms of the other questions, I think the DDG, acting DDG has covered most of them. Just to speak on the UNWTO pilot, I think Chairperson and honourable members, to Honourable Member Gombo's question, what other programs are we doing? We did have a meeting as with Women in Tourism Chapter Chairpersons around us working more closely with other women formations, such as Women in Agriculture, Women in Property, Women in Mining, through the Business Women's Association of South Africa. So we intend to actually organize an event around that once we're allowed to get to events, or even if it's a virtual event, so that we can tap into exactly what the honourable member spoke to, the opportunities that are available for women within the value chain. We even are putting together our women in consortia to take bigger transactions on, like the purchase of hotels or concessions with sand parks, for example, where one person's business is only a 10 or 20 room facility. If we put 5 or 6 women together, suddenly that becomes a powerhouse, and they can actually vie for that kind of business. The department does not provide any financial support at all, Honourable Crumbing, to the women. So in terms of the challenges, it's more around personalities. And the only support that we give is training, venues, etc., but no financial support. So there is nothing that, from taxpayers' money perspective, that has gone awry there. Thank you for the feedback on Howick. It is indeed painful to hear, but the chairperson of KZN is on, and we will engage Makosi after this to see how we can up the support there. I think I've covered the other questions, the main questions from the department. I don't know if there's anything Lumka would like to add, but some of the other questions were for the members, the chairpersons themselves. Honorable Chairperson, I thank you.
Is there any other addition from any provincial chapter? If there is none.
Okay, the chair.
Okay.
Yes, I just want, there are some questions that are directed to the chapters. I would like to start with Mekomba. She was asking how do we select our members? I think we differ from province to province how we selected our members, but we used a voting system. And then with Mr. Gumbi was asking what should be done to make sure that more women get assistance. I thank you, Honorable, for this question, because we are the ones that know what do we need how do we need to be assisted, because some of our members, we are not at the same level. You find most of the assistance that we have to get, we need to have financial statements, which tax clearance is given. We agree with that, all of us. But you find we also need business plan to apply for any incentive that is there. And you find some of the members, as much as they would like to have those things, but you find that because of the small businesses doesn't make enough money, because now what happened, especially now during COVID, most of the accountants, their prices have gone very high. If you want to make a year's financial statement, it will cost you around 6,000 to 8,000 rent. And we find those small businesses, they really can't afford that. And then people are losing because of that. And with Honorable Muteka was asking about the recruitments, and with the concern of going to the townships, we do go to the townships. We do try and cover everywhere, because we need more women to get this and to be part of the wheat. And also the requirement, you just have to be a woman. It's a woman in tourism. You just have to be a woman who own the business or interested in the sector. And that's the requirement we are using. In my presentation also, I did mention that we were planning to go to universities and schools in order to showcase this sector and the career and wheat to those younger people, the new faces. And Honorable Kalipa was talking about the financial support. I thank you very much, sir, because we really need, as women, training is the most important one, and finances as well. You nailed it. And then Honorable Gleko, thank you for the advice. Honorable Greg, we really thank you for the information you gave us. I thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other chair of the chapter who would want to amplify?
Thank you. I'm Grace Barra from Limpopo. We thank you, honorable members, for all the advices that you are giving us. Going back to our chapters, we are going to implement everything that you advised us to do. I'm sorry, I can't remember the names of the of honorables who raised some questions, but I looking at the question on townships and villages. If you listened to the presentation from Limpopo, Limpopo is one of those rural province, and it has got 5 districts. And most of our women in tourism are located in those rural villages and in those townships. So what we did, and really it's not about Limpopo only, it's also about all the other provinces. They're doing the same. What we did, even when we started with the election of the executive committees, we made sure that all the districts are represented. From the EXCO members, at least all the districts should have representatives. And we literally went on a road show from one district to the other. And I'm also saying this, other provinces are also doing the same, going to one district to the other, because we have also created district organizers, district coordinators in those districts, so that they know their people and they know what their people are doing down there. So whenever there is something, we talk to the districts talk to their members. And we are also saying we cannot do this without the municipalities. We were fortunate in Limpopo because some of the municipalities were on board. All the events that we did in Limpopo, only one event was done. I mean, only 3 events were done in Capricorn district, which is more rural, half a suburb. But all the other districts were done right in the villages, right at those townships, because we have also realized that that is where tourism is. Besides having art and crafts there, we also have women who are in the transport sector, women who are in the agricultural sector, because this also brings me to the question of liaising with other women, I mean, association like women in mining, women in agriculture. So we are saying, as part of members of this association, Women in Tourism, we have realized that the value chain also includes members of I mean, businesses which are doing transport, businesses which are in agriculture. So we cannot leave those ones out. We do have members who are doing agriculture as their businesses, and they are members of Limpopo Women in Tourism, because that forms also part of Women in Tourism. So we are trying to do that, although we are really experiencing challenges most of the time, especially with municipalities. Not all municipalities are on board, and we request this a portfolio committee. I don't know if it's easy or not. We request this portfolio committee to go down, to go to the municipalities, to talk to them, to say, please support your women in tourism, because our businesses are mostly known by local municipalities where they are based. And I also pick up a question on the effect of COVID-19 on our members. Honorable Chairperson, our members are suffering, and we are told that women constitute 70% of the workforce. And I believe in business also it's the same. And most of the women of the business in tourism are owned by women, and most of the businesses are closing down. And most of the women businesses are not doing well, really, because, you know, from March, April, May, June, July, businesses were not working because of this COVID-19. Yes, there was tourism relief funding, which assisted some of the business. In Limpopo, for example, because we have a good relation with the Department of Economic Development, they also assisted us together with NDT to access those funding. I'm happy really in Limpopo to say 90% of the women from Limpopo Women in Tourism, they received the funding, and 10% didn't receive the funding, and some didn't really, they don't know why they didn't receive, because they submitted everything. They got the letters to say the fundings, there's no longer funding. So we are saying to this committee, to this portfolio committee, please just come on board and assist those businesses which didn't receive the fund. I don't know how we are going to do that, but maybe there are other budgets, for example, so that our businesses cannot go down. If we lose women in tourism in our different provinces, I'm telling you, there's not going to be tourism anymore. And I think it's better also to indicate that we need assistance, Honorable Chairperson. We need assistance in terms of procurement of goods and services. To tell you the honest truth, our government is not supporting us in terms of procuring services from us and goods from women in tourism. For example, if you look at the quarantine venues presently, none of those quarantine venues are from the small businesses. Most of them are from, I mean, they took big businesses, and those businesses really are not suffering like this very, very small ones. So I don't know if it is late, Honorable Chairperson. We really need this so that we can recover easily. Because if we don't get any assistance, we are not going to make it. By the time October, November, December, January next year comes, we won't be having tourism in our small, in our businesses. Let me stop there for now and give others to give inputs. Thank you.
Okay. Marcos, you want to say something? Or we are done?
No. I just saw a message from Petra. I'm not sure if Lumka, you wanted to say before we respond, or shall we carry on? I'll carry on my side. Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. I'd like to go back to Honorable Greg Rambok's question in terms of the entrepreneurship training. The KZN chapter, in partnership with FNB, we got sponsored by FNB to do a masterclass training around professional development, market access, and product development. When we talk about professional development, we mean training the individuals, the business owners, to be able to go to international platforms and market their businesses on an international level. And then when we talk about product development, we look at each product, whether it's a B&B, whether it's a hotel, tour guide, whatever tourism products our members own. We look into them if they meet the international standards in terms, particularly with the homestay. As much as we want people, our tourists, to walk away with the experience that they get from homestays, but they mustn't be traumatic for them. So we look at the safety regulations, we look at the health regulations, we look at the accommodation facilities. Do they meet the international standards? And we approached the provincial tourism grading council to get homestays their own grading status, because currently at the moment homestays don't fit in any of the grading status because of they come with different criteria. So that is a training. And to go back to Mayor Gumba's question on how we got appointed, and for KZN, it's based on nomination appointments, where you come and you present yourself, you submit a profile, and the certain criteria is they look into your history, how long you've been in the tourism industry, what impacts you've made, and thirdly, if you're a tourism product owner, and most importantly, if you're a member of the chapter, and the last criteria, and what are you bringing on board in terms of providing change, because being a member of the chapters with all of us, if I can speak for all of us, it's on a volunteer basis. So we look at your commitment, we look at the passion that comes into becoming a chapter person. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ausma Kosi. I hope that brings us to the responses from the department and the provincial chapters. Just in closing and as part of the way forward.
Sorry, Chair, some of us have got our hands up for follow-ups, please.
You are speaking on behalf of who now, Honorable Krambo?
Chair, I wasn't aware I had to speak on behalf of anybody. I thought I could speak on.
I hear you saying some members have got their hands up.
Yes, I see there's, well, I don't know if they're members, but I see there's Grace Sibara Shlanganani Gumbi is definitely a member, and I'm a member. And those are 3 hands I see, and it's also on the chat room.
I also had my hand up.
There you go.
How's Grace has spoken?
Yes, I have spoken. I'm fine.
Yes. So who still wants to speak?
Honorable Komba, Chair.
And
yeah, but
myself.
honorable members, we can't speak forever.
Well, you do.
We gave you a chance to speak, you spoke. We gave the chapters and the departments to speak, they spoke. We can't sit in the meeting forever.
That's true, Chair.
We have
but
an
there is
opportunity to engage at all times with the department.
Yes, but we're allowed to have our questions answered. And if a question hasn't been answered, it's always been traditional that you can ask for the question to be answered.
I have not given you an opportunity to speak. I haven't given you an opportunity to speak. Our responsibility today is to understand from the 9 chapters and the department how they've been working in the context of the Women's Month as far as tourism is concerned. It's actually more about them familiarizing ourselves with their operations. So we can't be posing endless questions to the chapters as if they are a department accountable to us. Our purpose is to familiarize ourselves with their operations. The intense issues that we want to raise must be raised with the department. So we can't be keeping our chapters the whole day here forever. Members who want to speak, I'm giving you the last opportunity to speak. Honorable Krambo.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This presentation was presented under the letterhead and the stationery of the department.
Ask your question, Honorable Krambo.
All right, I did ask the question, Chair. I asked, what does the department view as the number of women that ought to be involved in ownership in tourism? What is the current figure? And what are the training plans and empowerment plans to reach that particular outcome? That's what I asked. I have not been answered that question. And because members are allowed to ask questions, we're entitled to have the questions answered.
Don't worry, there's no problem. There's a difference between you asking a question, getting a response to your full satisfaction. So that question was responded to, but not fully. Don't say it was not responded to. That question was responded to, but not fully. I'll come back to it. Is there any other member who wants to raise an additional question? Honorable Gumbi. Gumba, not Gumbi.
Yes, thank you. Kumba. Thank you, Chair. Mine was just to say the Western Cape would like, I don't want the response, Chair, but I would love the Western Cape to improve on the townships. For instance, we want to see Guguletu, Khayelitsha, and also other townships getting involved into this tourism, because it was clearly mentioned that it's only in the Cape Town area. So I would love to see that having been improved. That's all, Chair. Thanks.
No problem. The department, do you want to re-emphasize some of the responses you gave, particularly to Honorable Krambok? He wants numbers, quantifications. That can't come from the provincial chapters. The provincial chapters are voluntary associations. It's not compulsory for everybody, wherever they are, to join those provincial department.
Malitonki, do you mind if I?
Yes, sure, Maylin. Maybe if you can also
Okay.
allude to the executive development program and the incubation project that we have from our side. Thank you.
Okay, I think I shared that in the slides.
Yes.
Honorable Kambrik, I think what I indicated was we are in the process of working with our research team. Stats South Africa only as of last year, 2019, started to collect gender-related stats in the sector. So we are working with our research team to actually do a full quantification and look at what is the potential, where women should be involved, and the UNWTO pilot is meant to look at a microcosm of that we can then indicate what are the policy responses we need in order to drive transformation and increase the numbers based on the statistics we have. We don't have a full set of statistics. As I indicated, Stats SA just started collecting gender-related statistics. So it is work in progress. In order to design proper policy interventions, we do need to collect the baseline data, and that is what we are in the process of doing. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I hope that helped.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the opportunities, especially for capacity building, in the presentation, we have alluded to the executive development program that really does assist in terms of making sure that we build enough capacity for entrepreneurial skills and also exposing women to best practices in terms of running their businesses. We have the incubation project, which is mainly dominated by women. That will be in terms of the financial literacies and especially the programs that women have alluded to, that they desperately are saying that is really the cutting edge skills that they will want developed. I think, Chairperson, that should be able to give a sense in terms of what the department is doing to capacitate women in the sector.
Thank you. Just before we do the thank you, okay, Auskero?
I just want to add something on women in tourism, especially in Mpumalanga. We are asking portfolio committee to help us. Women should have 50% business in all the provincial parks, e.g. Kruger National Park, Blade River Canyon, Leoscope Dam, nature reserves such as Manyeleti and Songimvelo and Kruger National Park. Government should facilitate shareholding of women in big businesses such as Chuvest and flight centers. And again, destination management companies are based only in Gauteng, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. We would like that South Africa Tourism and Provincial Tour Board establish locally DMCs in our program. And government also must assist the women chapters to understand the United Nations World Tourism Organization, women in tourism programs. Thank you.
Okay. If there is no one else who wants to say something, just before we come to the way forward, I want to reiterate this. The 9 chapters led by women in tourism are not a directorate or an extension of the Department of Tourism. These are independent business women. They are not accountable to us, but they can share knowledge and information with us on how they operate, what are their frustrations, what are their successes, what are their achievements, the type of advices they can give to other women, to us as a committee, to the department, and so on. Second, women in South Africa and throughout the world, they have more burden to provide leadership and care in society, in particular to their families. Honorable members, if we are going to keep the chairpersons of the chapters almost for the entire day here, when there are other things they need to attend to, it's not only their tourism businesses they have to deal with. They've got their children that they have to attend to. They've got their staff that they need to attend to. They've got extended families that they need to attend to. They've got grandchildren that they've got to attend to. There are so many things that they have to deal with. Every minute for them counts. And if we are going to keep them for the entire day in a portfolio committee because we want to engage them, it's opportunity cost on their part. So I'm just saying in future, when we meet, let's be mindful of the time that has to be managed properly, because we are keeping business people here in a meeting and want to do it for the whole day. It's not going to happen. It doesn't assist our women in moving forward. We must be crispy. Presentations must be done. The people who must keep for long in our meetings is the department, not the 9 chapters. It is the Department of Tourism, because they are directly responsible for the budget that has been allocated to them. I just thought we need to do that because as also members of parliament who are also entrepreneurs at the same time, we know how precious and important is time. So we want to thank the women for participating in the meeting. I just want to come to issues of way forward from the meeting. One, it's clear that the women in tourism are asking us as a department, through the portfolio committee, to make sure that quarantine sites of South Africa are made public so that we can see whose quarantine site has been dedicated for use by the government and how much money has been used by the government to run the quarantined sites, so that we can be able to see whether women who are in tourism, their sites, their establishments have been chosen as sites to be used for COVID-19. If it's not the case, government will have to then account and say, why did we not opt for this establishment that are owned by women? That's the first one. The second way forward is that annually we will meet in August during the August month for women. And we will not be pontificating and say many other things. It's to look at progress from the last meeting. It means from today, when we meet next year in 2021, we'll just be looking at what progress we have made. But we will not wait, honorable members, and our 9 chapters in the department for August. Throughout the year, in our quarterly reports, we'll always ask the department how far are they in as far as this engagement is concerned. Thirdly, it's about the involvement of the private sector. We will have to, as a portfolio committee, see how we are going to be interacting with the private sector on their comprehensive relationship and assistance to women in tourism enterprises, financially and otherwise. Otherwise will include things like skills development in financial management and so on and so forth. The next way forward is about VTSD, villages, townships, and small dorpies. Poverty in South Africa, inequality and unemployment is more pronounced in the villages, in the townships, in the informal settlements, and the small towns. There's no question about it. Going forward, as a portfolio committee, we are just informing the 9 chapters that our focus is that for the next 4 years, when we end our term in 2024, is our hope that we will be having a comprehensive feedback from the ground on the extent to which we have succeeded in pushing tourism to exist in every village throughout South Africa, every township throughout South Africa, every informal settlement, and every small town. The reality is that for the last 24, 26 years in South Africa, bulk of the focus in as far as tourism is concerned has been in the big cities. That is why we agree with a call from Mpumalanga made in this meeting that we must make sure that we jack up our work in as far as attending issues of transformation is concerned. And just to bring to the attention of the 9 chapters, we're for September, we are starting next month during the tourism month. We are going to be engaging on issues of transformation. So that will cover, House Grace, the issues you have raised from Mpumalanga. So transformation is not only about black and white. Transformation is also about ensuring that the villages, the townships, the informal settlements, and the small towns benefit in as far as the South African economy is concerned. Transformation is also about supply chain, which has been raised here in the meeting. Supply chain, the value chain within the tourism sector. We need to make sure that whatever is in the agricultural sector that ends up in the tourism sector as a catalyst, we attend to it in as far as the ownership and control by women is concerned as part of transformation. So we are going to be doing that, and we are going to be working together with yourselves. The other issues about skill support, we agree to that. Financial support, we agree to that. The other matter which we hope we can work together is around advantages that are there that must emerge from COVID-19. I'll just mention one advantage. One of the advantages, not an advantage, an opportunity which is existing within COVID-19, level 2, for instance. It's an opportunity for us because whilst we need international tourists to come, before international tourists can come, it means we must intensify and accelerate tourism domestically. So that is a big opportunity for us to say, whilst we are waiting for the borders to be open, for the flights to come back, for international tourists to come back, we need to say, how do we start immediately to commence the progress that we want to see around domestic tourism, so that when the international tourists come here, they must find us now having moved a step further in making sure that in the villages, township, informal settlement, and small towns to push domestic tourism, we are ready. So those are some of the things that we need to do. From the point of view of the portfolio committee, on behalf of the rest of the collective of the portfolio committee, we are very happy that we have interacted with the women who work so hard, the women who face hardships, the women who must make sure that the little profits they make or no profit at all, you are still carrying on with the commitment to build your enterprises and other women. You struggle with access to financing. You struggle with accountability to SARS. You struggle with the transportation of tourists to your destinations. You struggle with grading and the requirements of grading. You struggle, those who are in the villages, with water, electricity, all these other pressures that you face. But you are still saying, as women, you strike a woman, you strike a rock, you are going to remain focused on the strategic objective of making sure that we succeed in as far as triumph economically in the tourism sector is concerned. So don't give up. You must never give up. You are going to face new challenges. Never relent and give in under those challenges. The more the challenges you come across, the more resolute you must be to move forward, to build your businesses. You are going to face problems like you are facing in Mpumalanga, where you are saying government is no longer supporting you that much. Talk to us. Demonstrate to us the extent to which we have been trying to engage government so that we can ask them the difficult questions and say, here is evidence that there are these women with establishments. Percentage-wise, you have dropped in terms of supporting them. Why is that happening? Why are you not supporting these women who are based in the villages, the townships, the informal settlements, and the small towns? Let's work together and push. So women can do anything. You are powerful. Women are the leaders of our society. When people could not stand up against the apartheid system, you did it. And you marched to Pretoria to say we can't carry our babies on our back and at the same time dump us. You did not fear the system. You confronted the system. That's why today we are saying in Bogor as women. So there's no challenge that you cannot overcome as women. Society exists because of women. As men, we come from you. So we must give ourselves so that we can be led by women. That's why now I'm happy for it. We came today, we engaged, you are resolute. Give us the information on the businesses that have collapsed. Let's see what we can do so that we can wake those businesses up, resuscitate them, and move forward. The department, thanks for availing yourself. Give the feedback to the minister to say we are moving a step further after engaging with our 9 chapters and the department. We know the department doesn't have, and you will never have enough budget to attend to all the needs that are there within the broader tourism sector. But you are not just sitting on your laurels. We can see the initiatives you are making all the time, and it's not easy, it's difficult from a budget perspective as a department. So I want to thank everybody for having participated. Honorable members, the department, our women, our rocks in Bogoto, in the tourism sector, remain strong. Know that challenges are a necessary platform for success. May God bless you. Thank you very much. The meeting on the side of the 9 chapters and the department is closed. Thank you very much. Honorable members, we are now going to the minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. May we be excused?
Yes, you are excused. You are excused. You are excused. The department and the 9 chapters.
Thank you.
The minutes were circulated to all the honorable members. Can we have somebody suggesting for the adoption of the minutes if there is nothing untoward in the minutes?
Honorable Chair.
Yes.
Honorable Melina Gomba adopts the minutes of the previous meeting.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
We second it, yes.
Yes, Treko ST seconds the adoption of the minutes as proposed by Honorable Gomba. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Klepo. The minutes are now adopted as a true reflection of what ensued in our last meeting. Honorable members, this brings us to the end of
Chairperson,
meeting. We will meet you
Chairperson. Sorry,
meeting at 14 hours. What is the issue now?
Sorry, Chairperson. Just from the minutes of decisions taken at the last portfolio committee, I'm not sure if you were chairing at the time. You will recall that we had agreed that at this coming portfolio committee, if the report had not arrived on Howick that we were going to take some steps. So that was agreed upon. I'm just battling with my dots here to open up the points in the minutes, but that was one of the decisions that we had agreed. And so I'm just following up on that because we said that we're going to invite the portfolio, we're going to invite the municipality to our next portfolio committee to come and present
Yes, but
to
we
us.
are not dealing with matters arising. We are just dealing with the adoption of the minutes. And what we are saying is there in the minutes, it's reflecting. What we are doing today is just to see if the minutes are a true reflection of what we discussed. And what you are saying is in the minutes. So I agree with you. We are going to be following up on that, Honorable Gumbi.
Yes.
Honorable members, what Honorable Gumbi is raising is right. We'll deal with that in our next meeting. So this is how we come to the end of this portfolio committee meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson Mudulastulo.
Sharp, sharp.